Hello, it's Beachcam's Man and Jack from BAM, and in this video, Jack shows us around the compound used for Phase 4. We look over the cliffs that they will be working on, or cliff behavioural units as they are known. And we head back to Phase 2 for my first ever walk over the brand new footbridge. This is Phase 4 of Network Rail's South West Rail Resilience Programme, and following on from the new seawall at Dawlish and rockfall shelter at Parsons Tunnel. It's all part of a government-funded programme of ongoing work on the line between Dawlish and Teignmouth, helping reduce the disruption for passengers by affording the railway better protection from the cliffs and the sea. But before we start, please give this video a like, a share and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and my other YouTube channel for more content. Right, let's get started. Today we are at Phase 4 and there's been some huge changes here, Jack, since I was last here, so what's happening?
There has, yeah. So on the left hand side here, this is basically all the topsoil which has been stripped off the haul roads, which we'll come on to as we walk down the field now. So prior to us doing any of the stripping of the topsoil or taking out any hedges, hedgerows, things like that, you can see where we've got the opening in the fence here now.
Yeah.
We're getting the landowner's consent to come onto their land.
Yeah.
We have an ecology checks done then to check the ground for any wildlife, check any hedges for any wildlife, and then we remove all of it under the supervision of the ecologist then.
Okay.
So as you come down into the field then, we've got what's underneath me is what's called Type 1. This creates the hard running surface for us to be able to run all of our plant and machinery down into the field.
Okay.
And what we're basically doing is creating a road network down into each of the areas that we're going to be working on now.
Okay.
So through this section of the field that we're walking down now, this is going to be covering CBUs 19 through to CBU 23.
Okay, and that's from
where almost from where Morgan Sindel have finished off.
Yeah.
There's another CBU called CBU 18, which is in between here where we're finishing off down at the waterfall and where Morgan Sindel's are.
Yeah.
That's going to be delivered hopefully from the access track at the top of Morgan Sindel's compound.
Okay.
You can see some more of the topsoil that we stripped here, and then we've got a bit of a compound laydown area where we're having the stone delivered into at the minute.
Okay.
Which is feeding the rest of the working area. So in here we've got an 8-ton excavator, which is what's been used to kind of level and lay out all the stone that we've been working with. And then this is basically going to be the main distribution material storage area for Phase 4. So a lot of the bar, well, some of the bar has started to arrive. You've got the wood skip over the back right hand corner over there, where we are chipping all of the wood into from the de-veg works which have been ongoing throughout the weekends.
Okay.
And this is some of the fencing which is going up onto the top of Lee Mount. So this is some of the bar for Phase 4. So we've got a combination bar, which is basically the top section of bar which goes into the cliff.
Yeah.
The top 1.5 metres of that is a stainless steel product. And then we have a coupler which joins the stainless steel bar onto the galvanised bar here.
Yeah.
The reason why we're doing this is because stainless is a much more expensive material than galvanised. So it's the first time that this bar has actually ever been used around the world, and
wow.
the way this coupler has been designed to suit this. So it's a heat shrink wrapped coupler,
Yeah.
and it allows the threaded bar, which have got two different threads you can see here,
Yeah.
it allows those two threads to join together. And what the top 1.5 metres of stainless does, that's the area which is basically most exposed to the element.
Yeah.
And that gives us the 120-year design life that we're after,
Okay.
or the resilience that we're after. This section underneath the ground then is encapsulated in grout as it gets drilled into the cliff, and then this will go down a further probably 10-11 metres into the actual cliff face. So all of that is subsurface, nobody will ever see it again.
Yeah.
You'll only ever see the top section of this bar and a nut and a plate which clamps the netting into the cliff face.
So this is for the nailing and netting, isn't it? Which is to keep all the surface from dropping onto the railway line.
That's it, yeah. So I can't remember the number in total now. I'll have to look back through and I'll get an update for the next tour that we do. But there is a significant amount of nails to be drilled into the cliff.
Okay. So these are classed as the nails then, are they?
These are classed as the nails,
right, okay.
yeah. And then once that bar has been drilled and driven into the cliff face, we'll put a nut and a plate, a big plate, probably about this sort of size. We'll put a plate onto the netting, and then that will clamp the netting onto the cliff face, and then that'll act as one kind of integral unit then.
I've seen those on the other side, yeah.
So you can see the other bar, that's just standard galvanised bar then, and then you've got couplers similar to what we were using on the seawall, and these are basically what's called grub screws. So you thread the bar into this, and then once the bar is in, you tighten the screws off, and that prevents the bar from coming out then. And these are installed in 1.5 metre lengths because the guys are going to be working on the cliff face, physically driving in the bar.
Right. So you can join them to multiple...
Yes, so like I say, in total, there'll be each nail that goes into the cliff face will be roughly 12 metres long.
Wow,
so
that's super long.
Yeah, so you join, I think it's one of these and 6 of those together.
And we've got some... little sheep's keeping an eye on it.
Yeah. So one of the landowner that we've actually got the land from here at the moment, he has sheep in the field.
Yeah.
So as you come down, we've got everything's been kind of stocked.
Oh, they've still got place to graze then.
Yeah, stock fenced off. So the landowner requested that we have an access gate in the middle here.
Yeah.
So as we come down onto the Hall Road, we give them an access gate. So when they swing open on both sides, the sheep can transfer from one field to the other.
Oh, brilliant.
And then, like I say, we strip the topsoil off this section. We put what's called a layer of terram down, and that separates the Type 1 material from the subsurface.
Yeah.
So when we strip it out, it's easier for us to strip out. And then we roll and compact this. Then, like I say, we can open up the gates. They swing together, and they basically
and then join.
They basically join together, and they basically allow that sheep to transfer across the field. Then,
brilliant.
So they can still graze all the left-hand side and graze all of the right-hand side coming down through here. In total, so far, we've put about 2,500 tonne of stone into this.
Yeah.
Once we finish, the stone gets recycled and reused. It gets sent back off to a quarry, and it basically just gets
elsewhere,
reprocessed and used elsewhere. The road then, as you come down, it's got a bit of a junction in here. It widens out down the bottom so we can pass plant coming up and down the road. We could have forklifts running up and down here and excavators once we start the nailing and netting. And it's the first day that BAM riches. So BAM riches is part of BAM Group, same as BAM Nuttall, which is what the company obviously I work for. And we're almost undertaking an internal sort of joint venture on the delivery of phase 4.
Yeah.
So the right-hand side of the road, that goes down to what we're classing as CBU 19.
Okay.
And that's a load of waterfall and weir works, but there's nothing really to show you down there at the moment. So as the project develops, I'll show you that then. And then when you go back up this steep gradient up here, this takes you into CBU 20, 21, and then eventually 22 and 23. So now we're just over the top of CBU 20 and 21. 20 and 21 is basically split by the kind of bit of a headland that you see just above Shell Cove Beach. So Shell Cove is on the left-hand side of this tunnel here. Yeah. There's a tunnel just underneath us.
Okay.
And then the access down to Morgan Sindles is on the right-hand side there. So I think when we came here last time, we were doing some de-veg down on the cliff face here.
That was down that side, down the front.
So all this has been stripped for what we need at the top.
Yeah.
You can see the excavator in the background then. That then has got a mast attached to the front of it, and that basically, the head on the front basically drills the cliff face and drives the bar into the cliff face.
Okay.
Or drives the rods into the cliff face. And then we grout the bar into the cliff then once it's done. Yeah. So it's almost like a cementitious material that we use. Yeah. So this is actually only going to be used to drill the top row of anchors.
I was going to say, because I'm going to get that far down, is it?
No, we can't drive that down the face of the slopes, unfortunately. So this is used to drill and drive the top temporary works anchors in. Yeah. Once the top temporary works anchors are in, then we use slope rigs, which is almost like what Morgan Sindall used. Yeah. With the kind of catchments underneath it to stop any debris falling. Okay. We are putting temporary netting out over the top of the existing cliff faces. Yeah. And we're also putting a temporary catch fence in at the bottom, and what that allows us to do is work while the trains are running then. Okay. So it prevents any materials from falling down when we put the temporary matting over. Yeah. and then it also catches, if any material does fall, it catches it in the catch fence then.
Yeah, because at the minute you've only been able to do this on Saturday nights on the possessions, haven't you, so far?
Some areas, yeah. It all depends on how close the toe of the cliff is to the railway line.
Okay.
So this section on this side here varies from about 8 metres down to 2.5 metres.
Yeah.
And then we're just about to get prepped up to put the road in going down through here and drive the top temporary works anchors.
Okay.
The line that you see, the bits that you can see here are the drill bits.
Yeah.
So we're doing a 125mm diameter bore, and that sits a 32mm diameter bar in, and then the gap between the 32mm and the 125mm is basically filled with grout.
Okay.
The line that you can see here is all the kind of compressor lines and hoses. So they will basically feed back to the compressor and they power the head on the drill then.
Right, okay.
The line that you can see over here, then and the two big bowsers you can see here are for water.
Yeah.
And this is for the grout lines, and they basically feed into the grout pump. And we mix the cement in here, or the kind of grout and cement materials. We mix that in here, and that gets pumped through the lines. And then when the guys have got the open bore, they drop the bar in and then fill the hole full of the grout.
Right.
And
Well,
that's what cements it in place then.
okay, will the cement lorries get up here, or have they been...
No, it's all done in ton bags.
Okay,
It's all
okay,
done in
done here.
25 kilo bags.
Okay.
So it just get delivered in pallets of grout, and it's mixed in this
We'll
tray
put in
here.
there,
Yeah.
okay,
There's
and
not,
that's your water
there's not,
supply
there's-
for
yeah,
it.
there's not huge volumes of it, so
Okay.
we don't use like cement mixers.
Okay,
for it and
oh,
things
cool.
like that. And then this is just more of the kind of material storage area, and then this will give us access onto the cliff face behind the machine there, which is also known as CBU 21. So CBU 21 is the one which is above Shell Cove Beach, like I just mentioned.
Yeah.
So CBU 22 and 23 are also another section which dropped down onto Shell Cove Beach. The last time we went down there, we were undertaking some de-veg work. That's now completed, and you can see the staircase now, which has kind of been re-exposed.
Yeah.
The vegetation, like I've mentioned in previous videos, it has to go to enable us to do the nailing and netting.
Yeah.
Vegetation does prevent rock falls. It does catch rock falls, etc. It's only very shallow kind of slides that it prevents. Root structures do they kind of weave the cliff face together essentially.
Yeah.
So we're not actually removing the root structures, they're remaining in, and vegetation will grow back through the netting, the same as what it's done in CBU 17 where Morgan Sindles have worked. They've only been complete the best part of 3 months with their netting, and the vegetation growth back through it already is absolutely astounding.
Oh, wow.
So the vegetation will grow back through it, but it does have to be removed in the short term to enable us to nail and net the whole cliff face. If we weren't to remove the vegetation, we wouldn't be able to install all of the nails and the netting and combine all of the unit together.
Yeah.
So there is areas of the cliff that we're not netting in CBU 23, and that's basically an assessment's been done by the designer, rockfall analysis has been done, rockfall runs have been done, and we're just basically preventing rockfalls onto the railway. So it's not the whole area that we're going to be doing, because just area.
Some of it's sat back, isn't it, quite a bit from the railway?
Yeah. In CBU 22, where the steps are down to Shell Cove, there's a lot of material which has washed down over the years into that area, so we're doing some regrades in there and taking some of the material out as well.
Cool.
So at the top of our compound area here, you can see some of the stone which we've brought up from the beach. This was actually recovered from section A in the Stilling Basin area. It was all buried stuff, all underneath or in the wall. And I think it's some of the historic stonework.
Yeah, it looks like it.
From the old atmospheric railway.
Oh, wow.
So we've contacted Dawlish Museum to see if they wanted any, and contacted Dawlish Council, and we're just storing it there now and just waiting to hear back from them if they want any of it, really.
Amazing. So this was found on the beach before it was open?
Found on the beach, and some of it was found actually buried in the seawall.
Wow.
When we were taking the old front of the wall out in places.
Oh, so very early seawall then.
Yeah. Some of these had steelwork columns bolted to the top of them. In particular, that's more circular shape one on the front side there. And I don't know if they're all sort of old foundations off where things used to sit on top of.
I'd be interested to see what Dawlish Museum says about it.
Absolutely, yeah. So we have some of the stuff that we've done with Dawlish Museum lately. We've donated some of the old columns which we took off the beach. So where we had the old gas lamp columns which were kind of propping up the old platform, we have donated them back to the museum. And some of our lads dropped them off about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, brilliant.
They've been in storage for the best part of a year. So all of this is rolls and netting. So this is a stainless steel netting that is going everywhere throughout every CBU. That's what gives you the design life, the stainless steel.
Okay.
Some of the areas do have galvanised netting already on it, but you only get a 60-year design life, and some of it's been in for the best part of 15 years.
Okay.
So as part of the resilience works, it's improving and giving everything the same design life throughout these CBUs. So
how big are these rolls?
So they're 3 metre rolls,
Okay.
and I think they're 30 metres in length.
Right, so back at the station now then, Jack, and the bridge is looking really impressive.
Yeah, so the bridge is now pretty much fully complete. All of the large precast units have been installed. So we've had a combination of cranes in here, anywhere from 250 tonnes up to 750 tonnes. I have seen some questions on the previous videos. Why don't we just install the structure all in one go? Why do we keep swapping the cranes on different weekends? Why do we use different suppliers? So it's just due to availability of cranes and also what we're lifting on the weekends. So the reason why we can't lift all the structure in one go is because it requires a very lengthy blockade.
Yeah.
We don't get that sort of time on a Saturday night. We only get 8 hours.
Yeah.
7 to 8 hours max, really. And in 7 to 8 hours, we can only manage really about 5 to 6 lifts.
Yeah.
Apart from the other some weekends where there's a few more technical lifts which require a bit more time, especially with the cantilevers.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we're lifting those in. So that's the reason why we don't do it all in one possession, because if we were to do that, we would need a very lengthy blockade, and it would basically just take passenger and freight services out of use for days.
Block the southwest off, wouldn't it?
Yeah, block the southwest off for rail and freight. So we bring a crane in to suit what we were putting in that weekend.
Yeah.
So we've used Ainsco, and then we've been using Notus, and Notus use suppliers from all around the country, and they basically plan lifts internally to work out what size crane we need for that particular weekend.
Okay.
So this weekend we had a 60-ton crane in, and that was just lifting some bars across onto the opposite side of the track, into the shield wall to tie off those so we can grout up the remainder of the blocks. And before that we were using... Hi Leon, how you doing?
Hi.
Before that we were using mainly 450s and just reducing the counterweight on the back of the 450 to suit what we were installing the weekend. Sometimes we were using the full ballast on the back of the crane. Yeah. Sometimes we were only using half ballast. So the towers themselves have all been complete now. The lid is actually on the top of them. Yeah. The only thing left to go on top of the roof now is the earthen rod, which basically, in the event of a lightning strike, has the tower back down into the ground. You can see behind the back here, this isn't finished around this edge here yet. We've still got the ramp units to install. But you can see here where we've started to kind of seal up around the lift tower units all the way up. And that seals the joints of them. Nice. And then on the floor here is the base for the electrical control cabinet, which will feed the lift motor rooms. So we've got the electric box on the opposite side of the road, or the D&O cabinet supply on the opposite side of the road. Yeah. And we've done a small crossing here which connect the ducts from that chamber over there into this chamber over here, and there'll be a cabinet put on top of that base there, which will feed the power supply into the lift rooms. So the in-situ walls have been complete, and now we've got stairs on top of them. The blue hand railing that you can see at the moment is only temporary. Stoneman Engineering have still got to put the hand railing up on the side of the bridge, so they've been undertaking some drilling work for us. And now we're starting the infill process around this area here. So roughly where I'm stood, going up into the end of the platform over there, there'll be some precast units going along the right-hand side of where I'm stood, and this will form the disabled access ramp up into the station.
Down to the bottom there, yeah, okay.
Yep, and there'll be some stairs just down by the side of the station building there. And then this area in here will be backfilled, and there's another precast unit to sit inside this gap here to join this to this, and there'll be some fencing along the top of here then. And what people will basically do is walk up the ramp and around the front of the staircase, and they will come around the platform. If they would like to use the lift, they will go up into the lift there. And if not, they'll go up the staircase. Yeah. So inside the plant room here, we've just undertook a regulating pour to bring the concrete up to the right level, and this will house all the power and electrical equipment for the lift. Yeah. And then behind us here, the scaffolding supplier is currently in at the moment amending the scaffolding. The reason why we've got to amend the scaffolding is when we were installing it, we needed the scaffolding at different lift heights. Yes. That allows us basically to install the actual structure. Now that we need the scaffold platforms at different heights to enable us to install the lift. So there's designed heights of what these need to go at. Did you see that? Have a quick look. Yeah, so there's some more boards just coming down. Just watch the edge here, please. And that pit just needs cleaning out at the bottom. We paint the inside of the lift tower and the inside of the lift motor rooms, and then we use a different paint on the bottom, like a red paint, which it gives slip resistance for walking on.
Okay.
Same on the floor with the room behind us. And then that's where the control panel will get fitted onto. So inside here, there'll be a threshold for the door, which is all stainless, which kind of boxes all this off and cleans all this off nicely. And then you'll go up 4 towers and leave the lift then.
Do I get to go up these steps now?
Yeah.
Wow. First time for me. In fact, I think this is the first time I've been back since you put the bridge deck in.
It is, yeah. So you weren't available the weekend after when we installed the stairs. Hiya, Keith, how you doing?
What about you?
Yeah, not too
Hello,
bad,
mate.
thanks,
Hello.
mate. So this will be roughly the same sort of level as what I'm stood at around here.
Yeah.
On the final completed project. And then stonemen have been on site marking out for where the hand railing goes on the side here, so you can see the holes which they've kind of marked out for their coring contractor to come in and start drilling all of the main holes. So there'll be hand railing on both sides illuminated. That will
These look wider now they're in place than they did when we were over at Shea Murtaugh's. I don't know why that is.
We couldn't stand on them, that's why.
Yeah, they were lying down then, weren't
Yeah. So the hand railing will come up.
they? Yeah.
Inside this area here where I'm stood, there is a lot of reinforcement to put into here.
Yeah.
And that basically joins the staircase to the cantilever deck, to the lift tower, and then to the back of the bridge deck itself.
So you're stood on the cantilever now, aren't you?
I'm stood on the cantilever, yeah. The bridge deck is on that side, which is sat on the edge of the cantilever there. This is lift tower 3, which had the cantilever cast into it.
Yeah.
And then the staircase sits on top of it as well, which you can see just there.
It's incredible how they get it all together. I just can't get my head around it.
And then this all stitches together in here with reinforcement, which is what all the couplers are for, which Shea is cast in for us.
Yeah.
And then it makes it all one integral unit. On the top of the bridge deck at the minute, we've got some ply down. This is just covering the holes. But underneath there's the gap, and we've installed the reinforcement into there.
Yeah.
So at the minute, we can't cast the 2 infills until the deck ends are cast.
Right.
Because once we cast the deck ends, it holds the structure in place and prevents deflection in the structure.
Yeah.
And what we don't want to do is load too much weight onto it without the ends being cast into there. So there's a sequence that we have to follow with the casting of this.
I'm with you.
On the outside then you can see the stainless steel bolts, and that is where the parapet will get fixed onto from Stoneman. So at the minute we've just got the J-safe edge protection up, and then the edge protection and the parapets will be fixed in a possession on a Saturday night, just because we're working over the top of the railway line here. As you come back over here then, we've got another cantilever which needs to be cast in. All of the shield wall is now in, so you can see the shield wall which goes down.
Well, that's huge.
And it's all been kind of dowelled and all the bars have been put in. We just need to grout everything up now, which is what the guys are just setting up the tower for down in there, which we can have a little wander down and look at. So all the way down the top of the blocks, we've got the holes which you can see.
Yeah.
That is where the bars feed down through into the precast units, which tie them all together. Most blocks had 8 shear dowels on the backside, and 8 shear that kind of tie bars which go down into the foundation on the seaward side of the wall, which is what the guys are just working on the tower grouting up now. So that was what we had the 60-ton crane in for over the weekend.
Yeah.
The crane was lifting the bars up over into position. The bars are 200 or 300 kilos each. So
these big ones here?
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Especially the ones at the bottom because of the length of the block.
Yeah. So they're going to be cut, are they, these bits?
Yeah, they get cut at the top. And then you can just see over here now, the bars have got a nut and a plate. The nut's got to be put on all the way down, but it clamps the bar down onto the unit then.
Yeah.
You can see where the coring contractors come in and they've started drilling for where Stoneman will fix the fencing onto.
Yeah.
So these holes go down about 250 mil into the precast unit.
Yeah.
We wait until everything's installed on site to give us the best alignment and best position.
So that's that tricky piece that Fergal's on about, wasn't it? The last bit to put in.
Yes. So you can see if you come down here a second, you can just see where we've got the tie-in together now, where the two units just tie together. So we were leaving these two items of precast over in Ireland to make sure that they married up together. And then obviously you can see the shape and the alignment of the wall as you go up now, which all works pretty well.
That's amazing how that fits so nicely.
The guys have put the cladding on the back of the units here.
Yeah.
And then the other guys in the background now are just compacting all of this and getting everything ready to put a bit more concrete in over the weekend now.
Brilliant.
The only thing that we've got left to do on the opposite side is to fill, there's a little void over that side that needs to be filled with concrete and stitch all the reinforcement together.
Yeah.
And then the rest of that's ready to put granite sets down through now. We've got a little hop up on the back next to the station building. That's just to allow access up and on over the seawall.
Okay,
we
yeah.
basically cut
you cut off now, aren't you?
Yeah, we basically cut off access now on and off the seawall.
So what's been happening up here then, Jack?
So Pocket Park, part of the planning conditions for building the seawall is that we make some upgrades to this section of land that you can see in front of us here.
Yeah.
So we've installed the new fencing, which you can see around the perimeter. We've removed the old memorial benches for the time being, just while we undertake our work, and they're getting put back down on new bench bases afterwards.
Okay.
And secured back down into the ground, so they're safely secured in one of our compounds at the moment.
Yeah.
You can see in front of us now, we've took all the old material and the old borders out of here.
Yeah.
We've re-turfed and reprofiled all the levels and all the ground in here, and we've regrassed and reseeded everything. Started to plant some wildflower seeds, which you can see, wildflower plants and wildflower seeds, which you can see around the edges of the border here. The tarmac that you can see in front of us, that isn't the finished surface.
Yeah.
So the tarmac is in there as a base to put the resin walkway in, which goes in afterwards. But we have to wait for the tarmac, all the oils to kind of dissipate out of the tarmac before we can put the resin on top, which takes about 4 weeks.
Okay.
So for the time being, this park's going to remain closed at the minute, but just while all the turf beds itself back in and we water and kind of maintain and care for everything initially while it's all getting bedded. And then after 4 or 5 weeks, we'll come back and put the resin walkway in. So we're using a local contractor called Atlantis Landscaping to do all of the works in here.
Yeah.
And we're just providing the supervision and some of the servicing, like for the water and power supply and things like that. We're not creating or adjusting the levels going back down onto Coast Guard's bridge.
Yeah.
Just because the gradient of the ramp's already far too steep there. We'd never be able to actually create a DDA compliant ramp in there because the gradients are far too steep at the minute.
Yeah.
So we've installed new hand railing on the left hand side and put the new borders in. We've took up some of the old surface in and re-tarmacked in areas where the old tarmac was spalling.
Yeah.
And then again, that will have resin walkway all the way going back down to the ground, back down to the top of the steps coming up from Coast Guard's bridge there.
Brilliant.
And then, like I say, once we've finished all of that and the resin walkway's back in, we'll relocate the memorial benches into here. And then we will also open up the park back for public use then at the
Brilliant.
top. So bin sheds will remain up here. There's also going to be some memorial boards and also the kind of Dawlish history boards. Which
Yeah,
are going
some Brunel
to
boards
here.
and stuff there, wasn't there?
Yeah,
Oh, brilliant.
yeah.
Good to hear. Right, thanks for another brilliant tour, Jack. And so what they got
welcome.
to do?
Give it a like, give it a share and give it a subscribe.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
No worries, thanks again.